This is a special episode covering the Providence nurses' strike of 2025.
Welcome to The Enriched Nurse with your host, Dan Richmond. Enrich your personal finances, nursing career, and life.
This episode's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be 3 parts. Part 1 is the final hours leading up to the largest healthcare strike in Oregon from my perspective as an organizer and a striking nurse in Medford. Part 2 is why nurses are striking and voices from our front line. Part 3 is where things stand. Plus, a special performance at the end. The episode is interspersed with recorded audio taken from the Medford strike line. Part 1. It's January 10th, 2025 at 5 a.m. I've just driven through freezing fog to arrive at Providence Medford Medical Center to help organize the welcome party for nurses walking out and to get this strike started in just 1 hour. It's dark, it's cold, and no one else is here yet. I've spent the last few hours tossing and turning with maybe an hour or 2 of actual sleep. I check my phone. Our labor rep says she will not be making it. She has been up all night vomiting. Let's go back a little. The Oregon Nurses Association is our union, and about 5,000 of us have been bargaining with Providence Health and Services for about a year. And by us, I mean mostly nurses, but also doctors, techs, and other clinicians. In mid-December, Prov faced credible strike threats from all of its hospitals in Oregon. I'm one of those nurse members, and I'm also on the contract action team, helping our nurse negotiators and union put up a fight against one of the largest not-for-profit healthcare systems, not just in the U.S., but the entire world. This company does tens of billions in annual revenue and spans across multiple states. It's the largest healthcare employer in Oregon, and it's Oregon's largest private employer. The Oregon division is one of the most profitable units within the Prov system, and this moment was 100% avoidable. Neither I nor thousands of other union members wanted to go on strike, but we were willing to if necessary. When supermajorities authorized strikes across the entire state, Providence did not receive the message that rank-and-file caregivers were telling them. We were serious about long-term issues, that we were not going to be exploited post-COVID, and we expected a fair contract that contained the same or similar base standards already in place at multiple other facilities all across Oregon. The message that Providence received was these nurses, doctors, techs, and clinicians are out of line. They need to be put back in their place. This is a union that needs to be broken, which meant striking became inevitable. To be clear, there haven't been strikes in Oregon at other medical centers, just Providence's facilities. Other medical centers and systems with less revenue, smaller organizations, and definitely not almost $8 billion of cash on hand have agreed to fair contracts without nearly the resistance or difficulty at their facilities. These other facilities have been able to negotiate with other nurses and ONA bargaining units without anywhere near the level of escalation. A 10-day strike notice was given by ONA for the strike to begin at Providence on January 10th, 2025. On January 9th, the day before the strike was set to begin, myself and the president of ONA, Tamie Cline, who is also a nurse, started rounding around 2 p.m. at our hospital. Myself, other local nurses, and organizers, we had been reaching out to nurses directly and been rounding for days. We had drop-in meetings, we were answering questions, we were reassuring nurses that we had power, that we had the strength in numbers. Other contract action team members throughout the hospital were in constant contact with nurses on their unit, and we reminded nurses that the issues were just, that we were not alone, and that we were in the right, and that we could win. Management, meanwhile, had been running a fear and intimidation campaign, and it varied, by unit. Not all the managers were saying the same thing, but essentially on most units, Providence was telling nurses already squeezed by inflation and receiving below market pay that they were ready to weather a strike lasting months if necessary, that they were fully confident a majority of the nurses wouldn't actually strike, and that they had 100% of us replaced regardless. And they implied that they were ready to dump hundreds of millions of dollars into winning. They reiterated, if you don't cross on day 1, we won't let you back in, potentially for months. Nurses were rightfully scared and concerned, questioning their commitment to actually strike. We were handing out dum-dums with picket sign-up sheets telling nurses, don't let management sucker you into crossing. Day 1 was critical for us as a union and would decide if this company would actually have to negotiate with us or not. I had posted a video in our Facebook group about why it is important to strike, the employer's fear tactics, their strategy, and how we had moved the employer off of positions they had said they would never move on multiple times already, and that we could do it again, that they were testing our strength and our resolve, and again, why we were in the right. It really resonated with some nurses. The first unit we rounded on that day, on January 9th, was Birthplace. Most of the nurses were in patient rooms. It was busy. A nurse and a non-union tech were available, and the tech was pissed, eager to talk to us about how Prov was treating our nurses and employees in general poorly, and also acknowledging their personal manager, was great, but they were pretty dissatisfied with Providence's approach. And the nurse expressed some dissatisfaction with both sides, ONA and Providence, and eventually explained that they would not be striking with us. They actually told me that my video almost had them convinced and it brought them to tears, but ultimately, they couldn't strike. It was a little depressing. Next, we headed to the ICU, one of our stronger units. Everyone except for one nurse was wearing ONA shirts and planning to be at the walkout welcome party the next day. We had countless one-on-one conversations pushing back on management's claims that ONA was just manufacturing this strike and it wouldn't help us get a better deal. The fear was real. The anger was real. The courage was real. And the resolve of many nurses was inspiring. On night shift, we delivered local gourmet pizza and salads to all units. It was enough for all of the nurses and other workers to eat. We answered questions. We assured them that we would welcome to the line at 6 a.m. Our last stop and round was at 10:30 at night. And a nurse who had been engaged for months, had been fired up, told us, hey, we're totally freaking out here. Management just came through earlier projecting total confidence that most of our nurses aren't actually striking, that we've been 100% replaced, and that this is not going to end well for us. I explained, if they were so confident, why are they so desperately trying to convince nurses to cross on day 1? Why are they saying so many conflicting things? And why are they really hounding the nurses that this is futile? I reminded them management represents the company's interests. It was an intense conversation. Tamie Cline was great. She really helped nurses feel more confident that ONA had their back. And our group of organizers, and we promised that we would see them in a few hours. And by now, we had been rounding with our labor rep, Misha, another organizer, Phil, and a nurse, Bree, who was also an organizer and contract action team member. Okay, let's come back to the morning of January 10th. It is go time. It is 5 a.m. And I'm wondering, oh my God, did the pizza and salad that we delivered the night before, did it cause food poisoning? Are other team members out? Am I going to get sick? Am I going to start puking? I got out of my car and an ice chill hit my face. I saw someone pacing back and forth across the street at the meeting spot. It was our ONA comms guy, Peter. Another guy got out of a truck I didn't quite recognize, but he's a nurse practice consultant at ONA sent down to help. Jesse. I started to receive text messages, others were en route. Another rep was delayed because de-icing the U-Haul that contained all of our signs and equipment was taking forever. I told the comms guy, hey, stay put. Welcome the nurses as they arrive. We're expecting the nurses walking out to come out at that entrance. We'll be back in a few. I asked a few other staff and organizers to come help set up the actual strike headquarters, which was going to be a few hundred yards away. The property surrounding the medical center, it is a logistical nightmare. There are 8 entrances. The perimeter is about a mile to walk all the way around, and we only had access to street parking. Thankfully, the sidewalk is double wide along the busiest street and intersection. Myself and Bree, another striking nurse and organizer, rushed back over to the welcome party. We were tired and nervous. We'd been there till 10:30 the night before. We were wondering, are the nurses going to be coming out the front? Are they actually coming out at 6 a.m.? Are they going to be released early? Somewhere else, it was now about 5:45 a.m., and about 20 nurses had arrived, with more joining every minute. Minutes before 6 a.m., 3 ER nurses joined our line, and they were greeted with cheers. The first to walk out. We were in touch with nurses from inside who said they were handing off patients and heading out unit by unit soon. I found myself wondering, are the nurses going to hold strong? Or has management successfully scared more away? Our welcome party continued to grow. Now at least 40 people were here, and more were on the way. We cheered and hollered as nurses came out. A negotiator burst into tears as she hugged a nurse mom she knew was making a huge sacrifice by striking. There was a bit of a break. Several more nurses walked out, but they went to their cars instead of the line. I thought, what are they doing? Are they joining? Are they bailing? The group got a little quieter. Many of us were wondering, what's happening? All of a sudden, they were heading back to the line with custom picket signs in their hands. The crowd erupted in cheers.
Where's the rest of the ICU?
They went to get their signs. Yeah.
Alicia's like, I
And it was in that moment, I think, that we all realized it was going to be okay. As the sun rose, dozens of nurses were picketing almost every entrance to the hospital as non-union employees and management were arriving to work. Providence may have more money than us. They may have more resources. They may be bigger. They may have more administrators. But we have a supermajority of nurses, our nurses, on strike with us. They've decided to withhold their labor in the present for a better future. These nurses are scrappy, and they are ready to fight, and I am proud to share some of their voices and stories from the front line and why they are here. Part 2. Why nurses are striking and more voices from the front line.
Bargaining doesn't quite look the same when you're in a strike. It's not like we meet at a table and sit around for 8 hours waiting for them to give us another crap offer. It's a lot of emailing back and forth, but money is still the same amount of disappointment in the employer. But we are holding strong, and I just appreciate all your guys' support.
Hey, get a chant going, Carolyn.
A chant?
Yeah.
Who are we?
ONA!
We win! One day longer,
One day stronger.
All right, thanks guys so much.
That was Shygo Torres and Kevin Widdison on guitar with Phil Newton on harmonica. That was one of the organizers I was talking about in part 1. I will play the rest of their jam from the picket line. On the bullhorn, that was Carolyn Allison, one of our negotiators, who we'll hear more from shortly. There have been a ton of nurses out walking the picket line and actually on strike, and I really wanted to capture their stories. The first story I want to share is from a nurse who I think really exemplifies just the struggle and the sacrifice that nurses are making and why this matters. I asked Nurse Brittany why she was out here today.
I'm out here today because I am a single mom of 3 teenagers, and it's really difficult to make ends meet on my current wages. I really hope for change so I can continue to be independent and support myself and my kids and not live paycheck to paycheck.
Where do you work in the hospital?
I work at Providence Medford on med-surg.
And how long have you been here?
I've been here for 2.5 years.
What has been the most surprising thing about the strike so far?
There's a lot of support from the union that makes striking possible for me. I went back and forth leading up to the strike because I was really concerned about financial hardship. And the union's been really supportive and has made this possible for me. It's also really empowering to be out here and just feeling like I made the right decision so I can be one more person who helps contribute to the change that we need down here at Providence Medford.
Great. What do you wish Providence knew about the sacrifice you're making?
I wish that they knew how hard it is for us on a day-to-day basis. I have to work overtime on a weekly basis, and I am chronically in burnout. I cannot be there for my teenagers at home, because of the wages that I make. I want to be respected, and I want my hard work to be made worth it. I would like to see some retro pay on the table is a big reason I'm out here. I don't think that their previous offers of the ratification bonuses have been anywhere near what we deserve.
Sounds like you're saying you don't feel like the bonus they put on the table really was recognizing the sacrifice you made and like discounted wages over the last year?
Correct. I mean, we've been out of contract for almost a year, so where did those wages go? How can they continue to not? They're continuing to save that money. Where is it going? We deserve at least a part of those wages. And even if it's not the full amount, I mean, we have to find some middle ground that's more than $1,000 ratification bonus, because that's honestly kind of a slap in the face.
The $1,000 bonus she's referring to is a ratification bonus, but the issue is the overall package proposal from Providence has never adequately addressed a lot of the issues and the changes reflected in the market for RNs, especially locally. Providence actually claimed that they were offering all nurses a $5,000 ratification bonus to the media and the community. However, that's not true. The vast majority of nurses under their proposal would get far less, including nurses like Brittany, a measly $1,000, which does not recognize the tens of thousands of dollars in lost wages they've endured. Another nurse I talked to is Ashley, who's been a nurse in the ICU and has been with Providence for over 6 years.
I'm out here to fight for what's right for the future of nursing. I have a standard for an employer, and I expect parity and equality, and I don't feel that Providence is giving that to us, especially down here in Medford, with being kind of singled out and set apart and getting less PTO and different things that I just don't think is right, and I feel like that needs to be rectified.
I asked Ashley what she found most inspiring so far.
I work in the ICU, and to have my whole team out here with me has just been, it's been really inspiring, just the equality that we are all on the same page. And, you know, anytime you think like, am I being unreasonable? And then your peers lift you up and are like, no, we're doing what's right. And what we're doing matters, and it's going to be for the future of Providence nursing.
Ashley mentioned parity and equality. There have been a few major issues at Prov Medford. Of the 6 hospitals who were on strike last June, we were singled out by Prov. They put worse wage offers on the table, completely missing the point of the first strike, which was in response to inadequate offers on not just wages, but several issues in the first place. Their wage offers have never taken into account the massive labor discount that they've been enjoying, underpaying our nurses compared to other local hospitals and even other smaller rural Prov facilities. And like Nurse Brittany had said, where did that go? Where does that labor discount go? Our nurses have now been paid more than $20,000 less than nurses at Rogue Regional and even Sky Lakes and Klamath Falls. These are way smaller health systems. And that's just on base wages. Where has the savings in those labor costs gone compared to the market? Other Providence facilities receive better paid time off bonuses. They have better sick time policies. Even other local hospitals have better paid time off and sick time policies, especially for experienced nurses. And in a field with such high burnout and a facility with so much turnover, how does it make sense to simply tout the status quo as good enough? The numbers do not lie. Had we accepted Prov's inadequate offers, not only would we have been taking a hit for the last couple years, but a few years down the road, we would literally be the lowest paid nurses in the entire state, not just within the Providence system or locally. And really, there were no other benefit concessions to really justify that. I caught up with Nurse Henry, who understands the importance of collective action and striking. When he was a kid, his family experienced a strike. I asked him why he was out here and if he had anything he wanted to say to nurses who decided to work instead of actually strike.
So I'm out here to support the nurses and the ONA to try to get a better contract with our hospital.
What's your role at the hospital?
I'm a PIC nurse, IV therapy.
Is this your first time on strike?
It is my second time on strike. We had a 3-day strike this summer that turned into a 5-day strike.
Prov locked us out a couple days.
The nurses out here on the line, everyone seems committed to this goal, and I think we all know that we deserve what we're fighting for. Seeing everyone's commitment to that has been inspiring, and it's made me come out here and spend a lot more time than I thought I would have initially. So my dad and my mom both worked for the International Paper Company out on the coast of Oregon. Dad was out of work during that time for 8 months is what they said in total.
8 months is a long time.
It's a long time.
So what do you wish some of the nurses who aren't striking and are actually working understood about the movement?
I hope they do understand. I think regardless of what happens, they're going to benefit from whatever contract we're able to settle. Some of them can't be on strike for financial reasons, and I understand that, and I support that decision. But without a collective action, we're not going to be able to reach this deal. And that's our only power to get a contract is having the support of as many people as we can.
When the initial press came out from the strike, Providence disclosed about 600 nurses had crossed the picket line out of 5,000 nurses and doctors, clinicians statewide. That's about a 90% strike rate statewide. That is really strong. I don't know how Providence thinks they can ignore and beat 4,400 pissed off employees without serious short-term and long-term damage to the organization and our community. Locally at Medford, Prov said that we had about 40% of nurses cross on day one, and that number isn't confirmed, but it is on the high side of the range, I was anticipating. Of the local nurses who crossed, quite a few publicly disclosed they were not striking because they couldn't afford to. Not because they thought Prov's offer was fair. I've been really impressed how friendly and supportive our nurses out here making the sacrifice are, like Henry said. Supports that decision, even though he also knows that our power lies in solidarity. And that's another thing I've noticed about the picket line is, even this depressing situation we find ourselves in, there has been a lot of energy, excitement, camaraderie, and it's really made the strike more inspiring and a positive experience. Nurses arranged for a kids parade on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Let's have a listen. It's a little stressful walking along a busy road with kids, but a ton of parents brought their kids out. Another nurse on strike brought an arsenal of costumes and props for everyone to wear. My family brought tambourines. It was a good time. Oh, we got a bear?
Hi.
It's Mike.
The wife of one of our negotiators, Crystal Brunston, took the lead and got these kids and families marching.
Okay, just thank you for coming out for our children's parade. Crystal, please move him close to the fence. You're stressing me out. Okay. So I'm not a natural public speaker. I thought I could talk to kids okay, though. So I just wanted to say that we want to acknowledge today's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and he was a real hero in our society and well known for the civil rights movement, and he also supported labor movements. So it's a good opportunity for us to march together with our families and fight for a fair contract.
She gave a little safety pep talk, told us to put the kids near the fence, and we started marching.
Yeah, let's go!
There's really been a diverse group of nurses at the Medford strike line, and they all have various reasons for why it's important that they're here. Donna is a nurse who's been at Prov Medford for decades, and she summed it up like this.
I am out here to support safe staffing on the nursing units. I no longer work bedside care, but I see the hard work that these nurses do every day on the units in ICU, basically patient care, and they're chronically short-staffed. We cannot keep staff here if we don't provide competitive wage and benefits. I've worked at Providence for 38 years. I was here before the union. Well, back in the day, early on, it was a great place to work. It was very homey. We had very little turnover. Then Providence kind of regionalized everyone. And Providence Medford has been a very small little hospital in the big Providence system, and we've always been kind of left behind as far as our wages, benefits, and a lot of things. It got to be less of a pleasant place to work, put it that way. Yeah, the union absolutely helped. There's a process now. We feel very supported.
The bargaining unit was formed back in 2010 And really, that was in response to things getting worse. And, that's why we're fighting now. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of these nurses, is these things are important, and they're important to maintain and continue fighting for the future. Let's check in with a new grad nurse, Olivia.
I believe that we deserve more from our employer, Providence. I got my RN license this October, so just a few short months.
So you're a new grad and you're out here on the line. So what has been the most interesting thing so far?
On the medical telemetry floor, and it's been great to know all those nurses, but coming out here and meeting people from different departments, and I've even met some nurses that came down from Portland, and just hearing that we are all going through the same struggles really has driven home how important this fight is for us.
What do you wish Providence understood about this strike?
I wish they understood that... Hold for the motorcycle. I wish they understood that we are all on the same team to get the best care that we can for our patients. In my opinion, they're driven by profits, and us nurses, we're driven by our passion to provide great patient care, and those really should be aligned. When I kind of came into this, when I heard staffing, I thought just the bodies in the room, patient ratios, which is important. But especially as a new grad, I think something I realized that staffing is not just about the bodies in the room, but it's about the experience. When I've had the opportunity to be precepted by a nurse that's been here for 30 years, versus 10-year, versus 2-year, they all have such valuable experience to give.
I really appreciated Olivia's insight into the importance of experience, and also that staffing's more complicated than just bodies. The turnover at PMMC is high. A nurse's sign on the picket line in giant letters declares 65% turnover in bright neon lettering. A supermajority of the bargaining unit has only been employed at Providence Medford for less than 3 years. That's over 200 nurses. It seems like what a lot of nurses want Providence to understand is they need to entice staff nurses to stay, not chronically rely on expensive out-of-area temporary nurses, not rely on the experienced nurses that are actually here to train everybody, and not constantly ask our nurses to work extra shifts.
I don't know, but I've been told.
Striking here is getting old.
This is Amy. She's a rep at AFL-CIO, another local union, came to our rally. She heard I was the guy for bullhorns and chants. Marching and chanting's pretty fun on the line. I tried to tell her, though, to keep the chants short.
Dan, he's our man.
Remember what I said? Like, do more than 2 or 3 words, they get confused.
All right, okay. All right, what was the other one?
When the going gets tough.
The tough hold the line.
The tough hold the line.
When the going gets tough.
It's harder than it looks.
Another nurse whose name I'm not going to disclose for reasons that will become obvious had a different take on the strike, but felt it was still important to come out to the line.
I'm out here because I want to first say whether you strike or you cross the line and work, it was really a difficult decision. I've been with Providence over 2 decades. I've seen good, I've seen bad, but right now I just feel totally disgusted that they are paying strike nurses 4 times what we make instead of sticking by their own registered nurses. We got the best maternity ward for 2023 because of the care we give our patients and our nurse manager, who's wonderful. And I can attest to say I did cross the line and work with strike nurses, and they are only there for the money. I am not impressed.
What do you think the long-term effects will be of the strike?
I think the long-term effects are going to be sad. I feel like I chose to work for Providence because of their core missions statements, and I feel like corporate greed has tainted those core values that they preach, and that Providence's name is going to be tainted and the culture will be changed. The strike's going to resolve, but it will not be the same.
There has been a ton of community support and a lot of inspiration from around the state. Some high-profile nurses have come to picket lines across the state, and interestingly, I talked to one locally who helped facilitate Nurse Blake come into the St. V's picket line up north.
So tell me where you work, Andy.
I work at Providence Medford Medical Center in the emergency department.
How long have you been with Providence?
I've been with Providence about 3 years.
And why are you out here on the strike line today?
Mostly for retention. The wages that we make right now we're not able to retain any nurses. They keep leaving. They'll get trained here, and then after a year of training and they've graduated through our educational department, they leave and they go to a different hospital that pays them significantly more money.
You were telling me before the interview you were up at the Portland strike line with Nurse Blake. Tell me about that.
So when I heard when the strike was going to be happening, I started reaching out to Nurse Blake, telling him about it and seeing if it could fit into his schedule. We went on strike. He told me that he was going to be able to make it on that Monday morning, so he decided on Providence St. Vincent.
And you were there too?
I was there.
What's the vibe like up in Portland?
It is crazy. Lots of dancing going on. A lot of people doing motivational speaking daily. People with costumes and doctors walking up and down the line with us. Just not willing to basically accept the offers that are being thrown at them until they actually take care of the nurses also.
How are you feeling about the Medford strike line?
I feel good about it. It's been a good turnout. A lot of positivity here. A lot of people, holding the line and supporting each other.
What do you think the odds of Nurse Blake coming to one of the smallest strike lines is down here?
I don't think he's going to come to this.
Fair enough. I think he was at Rogue. He was passing through. Went to Rogue's Bargaining a year ago, which was cool.
Yes. He is in Miami right now, securing a boat for NurseCon.
So while we couldn't get Nurse Blake to come down to the Medford strike line, we did have a big rally, and we did have some great speakers who came in. And so next I want to play some of those speeches from the rally.
Guys, we need to support this strike here in Medford and across the state.
This is Jason, a station manager for KSKQ, a local public radio station.
Because the direct action gets them good. And we've seen this strike is already having results. And in the end, there will be a contract to be signed. And in the end, the union will be stronger for the work you're all doing today. We can move mountains. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Brianna Zabel, who has been doing a ton of media interviews, but also was one of the organizers I mentioned, who is rounding and doing a ton of work in the lead up to the strike to help make this a success.
Today we rise not only as individuals, but as a force.
She's standing on a ladder speaking to a large crowd.
That will not be ignored. A force that will not be shaken. A force that will win. We are here today because Providence needs to hear us. For too long, this hospital has made it clear where its priorities.
Even the dogs are upset with Providence.
Where its priorities lie. Profits over patients. But let me be clear. We are not just employees. We are dedicated professionals who have given our hearts, our minds, and our souls to this work. We show up every day for our patients, whether we're tired, stressed, or even burned out. We give everything for this community. Come to the table, bargain in good faith, and settle this contract so we can get back to work and continue providing the care this community deserves.
Graham Trainor came down from Portland. He's the head of the Oregon AFL-CIO.
Since January 10th, it's been an absolute honor to walk the line with you all across the state and bring the voice of the entire labor movement into this critical and timely fight you're leading. Because as you've heard today already, this isn't just a fight about your job or even just this hospital, am I right? You all in your union, the fighting ONA, who are we? ONA! Who are we? ONA! You all are truly helping to transform our healthcare system. Truly. With powerful contract campaigns, with historic organizing, and with innovative and critical legislative victories. But here's the thing. With this fight, you are showcasing to the world that healthcare workers and caregivers must never be an afterthought in the system. Am I right? With this fight, you are showcasing that just because you're in a profession centered around selfless acts of care, that doesn't mean that you must check your dignity and respect at the door when you clock in. Am I right? And with this fight, you are showing every other healthcare worker that they too don't have to take it anymore. That when you are united with your coworkers, you can take on some of the most powerful corporations and have them shaking in their boots. Am I right? And when you're dealing with Oregon's largest healthcare provider and a $30 billion corporation, it takes power to make change, doesn't it? Yes. When the Providence CEO made $12 million in 2024 and they seem to act like any other greedy corporation instead of a healthcare system, it takes power and organization to get their attention, doesn't it? Yes. So these examples of solidarity and strength are powerful reminders of what our labor movement is all about. The guiding belief that individually we are weak and vulnerable, but together, if we're united and with our communities, which clearly is the case here in Southern Oregon, are behind us every step of the way, that we are unstoppable. Am I right? Yes. Fantastic. So with solidarity as the lifeblood of the working class, there is not a damn thing that can stop a united, pissed off group of workers. Not now, not ever. Am I right? We will all have your back for as long as it takes. Because when you take one of us on, when you take one of us on, you take all of us on. When you take one of us on, you take all of us on. Solidarity forever.
Our next speaker is Carolyn Allison. She's a local nurse and med-surg, a negotiator. At the last strike in June, she was 9 months pregnant. She's been negotiating for a year. She has a toddler and a baby.
I miss putting on my scrubs in the morning. I miss getting up and going to work and doing this job that I love and taking care of my community, making Medford and Southern Oregon a better place to live, a safer place to live by providing care to our patients. Last night at dinner I was talking to my husband and I said, oh, the next schedule came out. I'm scheduled for my birthday. And then I kind of paused because I realized we're going to be on strike. And it really hit me. Providence has no interest in bargaining with us. They're slow coding us. They're trying to break us. They're trying to drive us away. I'm sad, you guys. Sorry, I know this is a rally where we're supposed to be building up happiness. And you guys, I just want to let you know, if you're feeling sad and stressed out and like this strike is a big bummer, it is. You guys, it sucks. We did not want to be here. We tried. We bargained for a year, a whole year to get a fair contract. We told Providence, look, up around and find out. And guess what? They're in their find out era. Raise your hand if you routinely pick up extra shifts at Prov Medford outside of your FTE. Raise your hand. Wow. And keep your hand raised if it's still hard to make ends meet, to pay your bills. Yeah. I can't even count how many of my coworkers are pulling 5 12s a week, 6 12s a week. Sometimes pushing it beyond that just to pay their bills, and it's still too expensive to live here. We need better. So that's why we're out here today.
And you don't deserve less because you're Southern Oregon.
don't know if you caught that last part, but that was a nurse, April, from Providence St. Vincent's in Portland, reassuring the nurses at the Medford strike line that they don't deserve to be treated less than the other nurses within Providence. I'm going to wrap up part 2 here with an interview from day 20 on the line with a special guest who was there with me until late the night before the strike and back early on day 1. Tamie has been traveling nonstop to picket lines across the state since the strike started and was even in Washington, D.C. recently at an AFT meeting.
All right, well, tell me why you're on the strike line today, Tamie.
So I am the president of the Oregon Nurses Association, and I fully support the strike against Providence from the 8 hospitals throughout Oregon, and I believe it's 5 clinics, because enough is enough, and somebody has to stand up to the bully, even though it's extremely hard and difficult and scary. There still has to be someone that stands up to them, and nurses can be silent no more.
How do you think strikes impact patient care for the better long term?
By us standing up for our patients on the inside are going to be taken better care of. In the last, I'd say a decade, it has switched to a very much profit over patient atmosphere in hospitals. So we no longer have that human side in nursing. We're told that the faster we can get the job done, the better we are. And the problem with that is the more efficient you are, the more work they will give you.
And nurses are notorious for self-sacrifice, and Providence is pretty good at convincing nurses to do more with less for less.
Oh, absolutely. If you think about yourself as a nurse, think how many times you have been actually sick at home but have gone to work because you don't want to let your coworkers down. How many times have you canceled your vacation because your manager has come to you and said, we really, really can use you. They throw money at us like it's chiclets so that they can get us to come in and do these extra shifts, but they don't actually fix the problem.
Here's what she had to say about AFT's national support of our strike.
And they came together to support ONA, to support the nurses and the physicians on strike, because they understand how vitally important it is for us to stand up for our rights and to be silent no more.
You've been to a bunch of the picket lines at the 8 different Providence facilities. So what has been the most inspiring thing for you?
I think the most inspiring thing is that the nurses know that what they are fighting for is right. It's justice. And what they're really fighting for is to protect their patients and their communities, full well knowing that they have to protect themselves too. So in order for us to take care of you, we need to be able to take care of ourselves. I just really appreciate everybody out here on the lines, but truthfully, standing out here on the line, not giving our labor to the hospitals is such a powerful movement. Seeing our communities come together, seeing people stop and tell me their stories of how bad it is on the inside right now, and that they so much appreciate us. It's amazing what the community support is out there right now for the nurses. And I don't think the nurses understand just how powerful they are right now. I think that they're getting it, and I know that it's hard and it's a sacrifice, but the power right now is with the nurses.
That was Tamie Cline, nurse and president of the Oregon Nurses Association, capping off my conversations with nurses and other speakers from the Providence Medford strike line. Part 3, Where Things Stand. Our employer has underestimated us every step of the way in Medford. After 20 days on strike and holding the line, I have really seen our nurses take ownership of this movement. It is very much a grassroots effort now. Nurses have gotten creative with ideas to engage the community. There's plans for a charity drive, a yard sale to raise money for hardship funds, and a community book drive. Nurses have been looking into facilitating blood donation from the line, like nurses in Portland did. A giant sign on a trailer with executives' phone numbers and the issues listed out has been driving all over town. Nurses are talking about all kinds of ways to put more pressure on our employer. The most satisfying thing about this struggle and collective action is that despite just how big of an underdog we are, despite being under-resourced, and despite all the barriers we face, we can still push back against Prov with their seemingly unlimited resources and billions of dollars in cash. And despite how hard they have tried to break us, through our solidarity, we can effectively push back against the odds and hold the line. That's what I find most inspiring about our nurses. their resolve. Providence has never put a comprehensive offer on the table that was good enough for a majority of nurses to be ready to sign. Make no mistake, they could have. And our nurses would have said, you know what? I'm not voting to strike. This is good enough. I'm ready to ratify and move forward. Our nurses are asking to be treated the same as nurses everywhere else in Oregon, including local area hospitals. Nothing more, nothing less. After our rally on January 27th, Providence issued the following statement. Rallies don't help reach contracts. Mediation and negotiations do. That said, the current proposals from ONA leaders are not sustainable. Based on what we've heard today, we anticipate an ongoing and lengthy walkout. We will continue to work closely with federal mediators to negotiate with the union, but ultimately, ONA will decide when the strike ends. The magnitude of the ongoing dispute has caught a lot of people's attention, including Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, who demanded Providence and ONA meet in person with a mediator from the governor's office. It's a major development that could help us actually reach an agreement. For weeks, Providence's idea of negotiating has been to simply email our union, see our prior positions, with zero compromise. As of this episode's release, it is day 21, and the parties are back to face-to-face talks, but a deal has yet to be reached. This acoustic song from the picket line is A Cat's Life, an original by Shygo Torres, who performed it in person at our strike line in Medford. The song is the perfect groove for a huge shout out to our contract action team, the cats who have helped make this contract campaign what it is today. A huge thank you to all the nurses who agreed to be interviewed for this podcast, all the speakers at the rally, all the ONA staff, and our negotiators in the community. Thank you so much. You've been listening to The Enriched Nurse with host Dan Richmond. Check out the show notes for important links, including the link to Shygo's original audio, A Cat's Life. For more great episodes, subscribe, follow, or leave a review. Thanks for listening.
All day, brawl all night. I don't care about this thing called time. All my life I've been carefree, chasing leaves in the yard. Catching mice don't seem to be so hard. Every day just being me. And I don't know how much time I have to live, so just living for today is right for me. And my human friends, they rub me on my side, living in the luxury of a cat's life. Living in the luxury of a cat's life.